Welcome in, everyone, to the very first episode of the Tom Takes podcast. This podcast is related to my YouTube vlog, and for this episode, we're going to talk about the very first vlog episode, the Kansas City Royals experience at Kauffman Stadium, and there's no better guest to join me than a Kansas City native himself, a good coworker of mine, a good friend of mine, Andrew Botwinik. Hey, Andrew, how are you?
I'm doing well, Tom. Thanks for having me on. Such a great honor to be on the first episode.
Yeah, it's an honor to have you on as well. So we talk about the vlog a bit, and what was your thoughts on the vlog episode in Kansas City?
I think it was great. I know you went to a few different places outside of Kauffman too to just kind of get further immersed in the Kansas City kind of community culture. I know you went to a few different barbecue places, and that's one of my favorite things to do in Kansas City. I make it a special treat every single time I'm down home in KC to get in some good barbecue.
Yes. So where are you from in the Kansas City metro? The Kansas side, the Missouri side?
Missouri side. I grew up just outside in one of the suburb cities, Lee Summit. So about 20 minutes from downtown Kansas City.
Gotcha. And so, yeah, you have like a good amount of experience going to those Royals games. Like it's been a while since you've been to a Royals game, since 2021.
Yep.
But like how long have you been going though?
Oh man. I've been going for probably since I was 5 or 6. I know growing up, we used to go to Hy-Vee, and they had like you could get like $5 tickets for the nosebleed seats at Kauffman, and we'd go all the time whenever we had nothing to do on a Saturday. We'd go to Royals games at Kauffman, and Faith and I, my wife, we try and plan every single year, the last couple years at least, to go to a game at Arrowhead. So in that same vicinity, but the baseball side of it, that's one that we've got on our docket this year, especially with some of the new food stuff that I know we're going to get into. There's some exciting stuff in there that I'm definitely wanting to try.
Yes. And without further ado, we're going to go a little bit of a rapid fire here, and we're going to talk about location, the outside atmosphere, everything the people need to know about Kauffman Stadium and a Kansas City Royals experience. So first off, how would you rate the location of the ballpark?
I'm kind of biased because I'm from Kansas City, obviously. Yes. I mean, I would say it's probably a 7.5, 8. It depends on what you want as a fan. I know for me, definitely during the football season, it's closer to a 10 because that's tailgating central.
Mm-hmm.
You get there early, you set up shop, you get the grill out, whatever you're making food-wise. You don't even have to make food. You find other people that have food.
Mm-hmm.
Baseball, at least when I was there last, it was a little bit different. There were still people that tailgated for Kauffman games for the Royals, but it wasn't the same as a football Sunday. But there's definitely, as far as everything goes, the location, you're there for baseball or you're there for football. There's not really much outside of that, which I like. I like that because you're not getting a ton of passerby action if you're downtown or if you're in the middle of a different city or suburb kind of thing. I like that a lot, in my opinion. What do you think?
Yeah, I would give the location, I would say a 7 out of 10. The one thing that I am not a huge fan of is that there's not a lot surrounding the K.
Yeah.
It's just Arrowhead and a whole bunch of parking and maybe some like a convenience store or two just outside the place. But yeah, and I did see people tailgating in the parking lots a bit on like the Saturday game that I was at back in last May, but I see tailgating as more of a football thing than I do a baseball thing. And
agreed.
Yeah, when it comes to the Chiefs games, there may not be a better tailgating atmosphere in the NFL. Yeah, but of course the Royals are a baseball team, and that's a little different. And yeah, but yeah, I mean, it is a quieter atmosphere, at least outside the place, and we'll get into that a little more. And that can be both a good thing and a bad thing because I mean, it's I guess baseball is just a more intimate sport, and it's a little more family friendly than football is.
Yeah. Not as much screaming on third downs. Well, no third downs in baseball, obviously. But.
But yeah, so yeah, I would say the location it's pretty good, but I can understand like why the Royals leadership. We'll get into this later on, but the Royals, the ownership, they want to move out of Kauffman eventually, and they want to go to a brand new ballpark because they want to build around it.
Well, and I think to your point too, and I know we're going to talk about that in the next section here. There's not really anything else around Kauffman. There's not really a place where you can go to before the game to eat that's within walking distance, really. You have to plan that ahead, go eat there, and then drive back to the park. Whereas I know we're getting ready to talk into that, but hopefully that's in the plans, at least if they do end up moving downtown. They'll have a little bit more of those amenities nearby.
Yeah, but parking and accessibility, I would say that's a 9 out of 10. I mean,
Yep.
yeah, the parking lots are everywhere, just like for Chiefs games. And the one thing I don't like, I guess, is that there's not like much public transportation. Like maybe I think there's a bus route that goes there. Yeah, but there's not really much for like a streetcar. I know Kansas City has a streetcar, and I can't go all the way over there. It's a ways away from downtown, and it's a drive for some folks to get there. The good thing about that is that, yeah, I mean, I guess that's the point of Kauffman. They want you to drive to the place.
My only gripe as far as the parking goes, I agree. I think it's great parking wise and accessibility wise. And it happens a lot more during Chiefs games than Royals games, but the how congested it gets at the actual gates to get in. People are in and out. They make their own lanes. That's the only thing that I am not a huge fan of. It kind of gives me anxiety as going in as a fan. But once you're through the pearly gates to get into Kauffman and Arrowhead, you're good to go. You're good to go. There's plenty of parking spots because there's two different stadiums.
Yep. And then now let's move on to the ballpark, like the building itself. The exterior, how would you rate the exterior of the place?
I think that there's, especially on I talk more about the Arrowhead side of it because that's the one I'm most familiar with, but they try and make it a little more fan friendly before you get into the park. There's some things that are on the outskirts if you walk around the whole stadium, but there's really not that much, in my opinion, that's there. It's just kind of the pictures, the banners, all that kind of stuff that you see at a typical stadium. But I'm curious to see what you think too.
I would give it, I'm not a fan. I would say it's a 4 out of 10. I mean, you do say that, yeah, it's they have the banners and everything and all that, but I mean, the exterior, it just feels a little bland to me, and it doesn't pop out with as much color. It's a very concreted building, and so it's just really boring, in my opinion. But then moving on to the interior, I would say a similar score. I would say a 4.5 out of 10. I mean, the concourse, yeah, again, very concreted, very dark. It's not really colorful, and it's also pretty congested. Yeah, and well, congested concourses were basically the thing in those days because this stadium was built in 1973, right around the time Arrowhead was built. I think Arrowhead's about a year older, 1972. I hope that when the Royals build their new ballpark, it's a lot wider and a lot brighter.
Yeah, no, I think the inside of the stadium, I mean, they've got the cool things that I'm sure we'll talk about later when we get into more of the fan aspect of it, but they've got the little kids park, the museum that's inside. They've got a lot of cooler stuff once you get in there, but the actual parts of the inside are really not that much different than your typical cliche park. I mean, the stadium, it's all kind of the same stuff. You brought up when it was built. It's a fun fact that always sticks in the back of my mind, and you probably know this because you're a sports guy too. But when they built Arrowhead and Kauffman, the initial plan, I believe it was from Clark Hunt actually, was supposed to have a roof over the two of them, and it was supposed to combine Arrowhead and Kauffman, and you could walk across the two, kind of like a skywalk. But it was like $1 billion in 1972, and that's a lot more than $1 billion now. Yes. So they nixed the plans on that. But it always reminds me of that whenever I talk about Kauffman and Arrowhead and how they're both in the same spot. I mean, it was by design to be that way.
Yep. And then moving on to the more fan-focused aspects, let's go on to the food. Have you ever had Chickies and Pete's before at the K?
I don't think I have.
Yeah, Chickies and Pete's, for those that don't know, it's more of an East Coast thing. You see it more in Philadelphia and New Jersey. There actually is a few spots outside of the East Coast. I know they have a presence in Kansas City. They also have, I think, a stop in Vegas and in Reno. So Chickies and Pete's, they're very famous for their crab fries. I tried that in the vlog episode. I would give the crab fries I want to say a 6 out of 10. I was slightly disappointed. I didn't think they were that flavorful. But then I tried them with the cheese sauce. I was not a fan of that. So yeah, I would say the cheese sauce takes it down to like a 4 out of 10. It was, it was a bit disappointing. But I mean, Chickies, it's still okay. I mean, I would still recommend you give it a try. Yeah, your taste buds are different from mine. If you ever do that. But what's your favorite food at the K?
That the newest thing that's at the K that I'm really really excited for is they had a partnership with Joe's KC. So that's going to be my go-to every time I go to Kauffman now. But it's cliche, but hot dogs. I mean, I am a sucker for Buck Night dollar hot dogs. I remember going there when I was a kid, and my mom would she'd say, "Here's $20, go get food," and I'd come back with 20 hot dogs every single time, and I'd take them home. I'd put them in the fridge, and it was such a waste of money because you can just get a pack of hot dogs, but it's not a ballpark hot dog. It's not the same.
Nope. No. Have you ever had the nitro ice cream from the KC Baking Company?
Yes.
Yeah, it's very good.
It is good. It is really good. They've got some good kind of like desserts, I guess is the best way to put it. You go around and obviously Dippin' Dots. I mean, everybody loves Dippin' Dots, but
you
they
see
do
that
some
everywhere.
cool stuff with the ice cream and the hats, all that kind of stuff, like the little plastic hats that they have for the Royals, like the batting helmets.
Yep. In the episode, so yeah, I tried out the nitro ice cream from the K. Excuse me, and I would give it. Yeah, it was pretty good. I tried the Royal Mint Chip, and I would give it an 8 out of 10. It was good. It was very soft. It was it had like a cherry on top. It had chocolate chips. I forget the exact. I don't think it was true mint ice cream, but it was still very good.
Huh.
Yep. Yeah, and the way they made it in there was like a smoker's steam everywhere because it's
cool.
nitrogen. Yeah. So it was a pretty steamy, but it was neat.
Huh.
Even outside of the K, we talked about Kansas City barbecue earlier. You go to Gates or Arthur Bryant's often?
Gates is probably the one I go to between the two of those more. I don't go to Arthur Bryant's too much. I'm usually not out that way. Usually for me, it's Jack Stack or Kansas City Joe's, occasionally Gates. Those are kind of the bigger ones for me. Q39 still on my list of places to try, but I haven't been out there yet to get that one. But usually it's Joe's KC or Jack Stack.
Mm-hmm. I haven't been there, but I've heard a lot of talk of Slaps. Have you heard that?
Mm-mm.
Yeah, it's some of my friends of mine that have been down there, they say Slaps is a really good KC barbecue place.
Oh, good to know. I'll write that down.
Yeah, there you go.
Maybe that's where I'll go next time I'm downtown.
Yep. Gates, I would say the pork bun with the fries. Oh, it is majestic. Majestic. The pork bun, I would give that 10 out of 10. It's a little spicy, but I'm okay with that. But once it hits you, it's heavenly. It's
good barbecue. I mean, and there's so many different places you can get barbecue from in Kansas City, and they're all different from each other, which I like. I like that a lot because some people are not a fan of Arthur Bryant's, but they're a fan of Gates, or they like Jack Stack, but they don't like Kansas City Joe's. And there's just a barbecue place for everybody if you're a fan of barbecue.
Yes. Yeah, and I had the burnt ends over at Arthur Bryant's. That was a pretty good. I would say give that a 7.5 out of 10. Do you ever had a burnt ends anywhere?
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. Big fan of burnt ends.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Moving on to back to the K, I want to talk about how they honor their history. Do you think the Royals honor their history well at the ballpark?
I think more recently they have. I mentioned earlier the museum that they have. I remember when I was younger, when they first built it. I don't remember when they made it, but one of the first couple of years it was there, I went and toured over the summer. I was at a summer camp when I was younger, and we had a field trip day out there and went and toured the actual historical museum for all of the Royals. And it was really cool because, I mean, they had the pine tar bat from George Brett, all sorts of stuff from Saberhagen, to some of the newer, or not newer, but I mean, Alex Gordon's stuff was in there too. So I mean, it was current players at the time, obviously not now, but it was current players at the time, and it was like memorabilia. I think they do a pretty good job when you're there, if that's something you want to seek out. I don't think they really plaster it all over the stadium at all, but they've got a nice little section, in my opinion, that kind of houses all of that stuff.
Yeah, I would give I think the Royals really do a great job of honoring their team history. I would give that a 10 out of 10.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the museum, the Royals Hall of Fame Museum, they don't just talk about the Royals, they talk about the history of professional baseball, Royals or not, in Kansas City, from the early days of the Kansas City Blues to the Kansas City Athletics. That was Kansas City's first ever major professional sports franchise before the Chiefs.
Oh, wow.
Yes, the Kansas City A's relocated from Philadelphia. They came in 1955, and they were there until 1967, and they relocated to Oakland a year later. And then, of course, the A's are
Right.
relocated now to temporarily to Sacramento and then on to Vegas in 2028. But yeah, the Hall of Fame and museum that they have on left field in Kauffman,
Yeah.
it is spectacular. There's even an exhibit there that talks about not just the history of the team, the history of the game, like how baseball first came to be, like how the baseball bat was first made, how the ball was made, the glove. You learn so much.
Yeah, it's really cool, and I mean it's relevant now because the Yankees just a couple weeks ago switched their bats to a different style of bat, but it still is in those same parameters that the bats even in the 1950s were made.
Yep, and of course, whenever your franchise has won the ultimate prize, so in this case a World Series, yeah, I really want franchises to display the trophy somewhere where everyone can see it. And the Royals do exactly that. They have the 1985 and 2015 trophies right there in the Hall of Fame Museum for everyone to see.
Yeah.
And that's a really big deal. And that goes up into a big part of my rating for how well you honor your history. Not to mention, also in the outfield, they have 4 statues. One, the founding couple of the Royals, Ewing and Muriel Kauffman, of course, the namesake of the place. Yeah, they were Ewing, Kauffman. I think the place was actually called Royal Stadium for the first couple of decades. After Ewing's passing, they renamed the place after him. And then his wife passed away, I think, a couple years after that. But yeah, Ewing Kauffman, he was a pharmaceutical executive before buying the team, or ensuring Kansas City would get Major League Baseball back after the city lost the A's.
Huh.
Yeah, so he is a wonderful man for that. They have 3 other statues. 2 of them are players, Frank White Jr. And George Brett. George Brett, in my opinion, I think Royals fans share this as well, is the most decorated player in franchise history.
Yeah, I mean he's the, I don't want to say the GOAT, but in terms of Royals history, yeah, I mean it's
the GOAT.
him, and then there's the only other people I can think of off the top of my head other than White. Gordon's probably in the Mount Rushmore of Royals athletes. It depends on if you want to put Greinke up there. I think in terms of his career, maybe he's up there. But yeah, George Brett, I mean, easily is the best athlete Kansas City has had on the baseball side.
Yeah, would you put Salvador Perez up there as well?
I think when he retires and is done playing, his legacy will be what gets him up there. But I think right now, I think people respect him. But whenever he's all said and done, I think you look at a guy like Yadier Molina for the Cardinals, was there for so long and did so much defensively. And I mean, he's probably there's only a few other catchers I would think that are probably rated higher or thought of higher than Molina.
Like Pudge Rodriguez or...
Yeah, I was thinking him. Probably is it Johnny Bench is another one, and then I think was Berra a catcher, Yogi Berra.
I'm not sure.
I think he might have been, or at least played catcher at some point. But anyway, I mean, there's only a few other players that played catcher at a high level like Perez and Molina. So for sure.
Yep, and there's one more statue I'd like to mention. That's Dick Hauser. He was the manager of the 1985 Royals team that, of course, won the franchise's first World Series. He has an award named after him, a college baseball award named after him. It's basically the equivalent of the Heisman for college baseball, the Dick Hauser Trophy. Yeah, he is regarded as a college and professional baseball legend. He played at Florida State back in, I want to say, the 60s, maybe late 50s, early 60s, or sometime around that era. And he was great. He was a ball player.
Yeah, and then waiting on Ned Yost trophy, right, for the 2015.
Yep.
That won't come though.
Yeah. Yep. Moving on to a little more of the technology, the scoreboard. That thing is iconic. I mean,
Yeah.
the Crown Vision scoreboard has been there from the very beginning. Of course, they changed out like the technology and everything, and it's more of an HD, much clearer picture. But yeah, the Crown has always been on top, and that's iconic. It looks kind of like the main logo for the team. You got the shield, the KC on it,
Yep.
and the crown. Yeah, that's really really cool. I would give that. I would say a 9 out of 10. The only thing I wish it were a little bigger because Major League Baseball teams, yeah, they're always trying to one up each other these days for the biggest scoreboard. I think the Mets have that crown right now, but no pun intended, but the A's in their upcoming Vegas ballpark, they're trying to build the largest scoreboard in all the major leagues now.
Well, I'm sure everybody's going after, was it the Cowboy Stadium, how they have the huge wraparound, the Jerry's World. I'm sure that's going to be the standard for baseball. But yeah, I mean, I think it's, like you said, it's iconic with the crown at the top, the little arches in there for the actual crown. And it looks exactly like the logo, which makes it even cooler, in my opinion, because it's kind of going back to the team. And I like it a lot.
Yep. And it also shoots off fireworks often, like during player intros, during the anthem, the play ball kid, and during after home runs, after wins. I mean, that's just a really cool feature of the scoreboard. Now let's talk about cost. How would you rate the cost of like the food, gear, anything you've bought at the K?
Usually just food and tickets is my thing. I don't usually go, and that's just general for me. I don't buy a ton of gear unless I'm in a whole new, like whenever I was in San Diego, my wife and I went out to San Diego for a wedding and we thought about going to a game, and that would have been probably something that I would have bought gear at just because you're there. Why not? But for me, Kansas City's home, so it's like I can get gear from anywhere while I'm down there. Food wise, I mean, I think it's pretty comparable. I don't think it's that expensive. It's more expensive than if you were to just go to Kansas City Joe's and get it probably, but I think in terms of stadium pricing, it's pretty fair.
Yes, I would agree with that. I would give that I would say an 8 out of 10 because I got pretty good value for my tickets. They were in the lower bowl. I believe they cost less than $100.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's really good then.
Yeah, that is really good. Yeah, the food wasn't too bad. It was in terms of quality and in terms of the price. Yeah, it was. I think it's one of the better ballparks when it comes to return on investment.
Oh yeah, yeah. You're definitely not paying an arm and a leg for a hat of Dippin' Dots or something like that, like we were talking about earlier.
Moving on to fan support. How do you believe the fan support is at Royals games?
In terms of like what they do for in between innings and that kind of stuff?
Yeah, you can talk about that.
I think they do a pretty good job. They always seem to be doing stuff at I don't remember what the name of it is, but it's like the little kids K, where it's like the one where it's just for the kids, and they always do stuff like the home run derby. I watched one do in between the innings. They had 30 seconds and they were just rapid fire lobbing them up for kids with a wiffle ball bat. So I mean, they try and make it to where it's pretty interesting, at least in the 4 or 5 years since I've been there. I thought they did a pretty good job of it, but I'm interested to see what you thought whenever you were there.
Yeah, I would say the fan support, I would give it an 8 out of 10. They show up.
Yeah.
I think Royals fans, they show up, especially when the team is good. Well, that's basically the case for everyone. But yeah, at least the games that I was at, there were very good crowds. The Royals, they would lose the series to the Padres 1-2, but I still think for all 3 of those games, they showed up. They were boisterous. They not too bad because there were a few Padres fans there. But I think everyone got along pretty well, and they were good people. I chatted up some pretty good people that were Royals fans. I've never had like any major issue with any behavior that's either around me or anything that I'm directly involved in. But
yeah, Kansas City's really good when it comes to the fan support side of it. Football and baseball, I mean, both of them, Kansas City fans show up, and even if the team's not great, I know one of my favorite memories is I went to a football game when I was younger. And it was during one of the seasons where the Chiefs only won like 1 or 2 games, and it was a full sellout crowd for a, a game going in that we knew we were not going to come out and win. And it was a lot of fun to just be able to go to a game and experience that with all sorts of people.
And I would give a similar score for the staff. I've had nothing but friendly conversations with the staff. I would say the staff is a 10 out of 10 because they are good. They are informative. They are very fun to chat with. And they're fans just like the rest of us. And they just so happen to have a badge around their neck and they get to come in a little earlier than we do.
Right.
But yeah, it's a great time with great people at the K. Now we'll move on to amenities such as bars, restaurants, kids areas. We mentioned earlier that there's a big kids area out in the outfield. It's got everything. This is, in my opinion, the best kids area in all the major leagues. It's got a freaking mini golf course.
It's pretty massive. It used to not be that big, and then they just continued building it and building it and building it. And I mean, now we talk about families and being able to bring your kids out to the ballpark, your family out to the park. Now you can do that, and it's like, okay, even if your kid doesn't like baseball, they've got all this area to just be able to hang out.
Yeah, you got that. They have a carousel. They've got a batting cage. They've got a pitching cage. They've got a wiffle ball field. They've got kids have like their own store that's out there, and they have their own concession stand. They can get like a lunchbox and everything. They've got like a little playground, a pop-a-shot, a base running challenge. I mean, it's like heaven for these kids.
It is. I mean, there's everything that you could want if you were a kid. And even if you're not a fan of baseball, you'll find something to be able to do there.
10 out of 10 for how the Royals treat kids. Bars and restaurants. I know there's this area in the middle level of the place. It's called Craft and Draft. There's like a bunch of craft beers. Have you been up there?
I haven't been up there. No, that sounds new to me.
Yep. It's been around for a bit. It's kind of in a hidden area because not a lot of people are in the middle. Yeah. But it's anyone can get up there. It's a pretty big social area. I was only up there for a brief moment, but yeah, it's when I did go up there and filmed around it. It was it had some people up there. I mean, it wasn't overwhelming, but yeah, there was people chatting, drinking good beer and all that. I didn't have any beer, but yeah. And then there's this area in the outfield called Rivals, like in the right field area. That's like a more of a sports kind of bar-ish atmosphere because it's got like TVs everywhere. You can check in on games that aren't happening in Kansas City, like other major league games going on. I really like that. I think that's a really good amenity that the Royals have there. And I think with social areas becoming more of a trend in newer places these days, I think when the Royals build their new ballpark, they're going to have even more than they do now.
And there's a lot of shift as far as, in my opinion, with baseball games specifically, where people go there for the experience, not as much to sit and watch the full game. Obviously, you've got people like you and me that will sit and watch the entire game and not leave our seats unless we have to go to the bathroom or get food or something. But I mean, there's people that buy the tickets, sit down for an inning or two, and then they're up walking around the rest of the game. They're stopping in at left field to go hang out, hit home runs on the little kid field. Or like you said, in right field, you go, stop, have a drink, maybe watch another game that's on for an inning or two, and then you go back to your seats, and it's now the 5th or 6th inning.
Yep, and finally, we'll get to the mascot and the cheer crew. It's called that a group of people is called the K Crew, and the mascot is Slugger. Yeah, it has a bunch of R's because he's a lion. Grr.
Slugger is awesome. I mean, he's a really good mascot as like a brand, I guess is the best way to put it. Fits exactly with what you would want to have for the crown because he's the king of the jungle. I mean, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah, I would give him a 7 out of 10. I didn't see a ton of him more often at the games that I went to. But I mean, he is lovable. I mean, the kids clearly love him.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and I just wish he were a little more, I don't know, active, I guess. He wasn't around me all that much. but yeah, and then there's the K Crew. They're like people who throw out the T-shirts and everything. They help out with promotions. They stand in the the middle of the lower bowl, and they like wave towels like towards the end of the game, like especially when the game is close, and they're the ones who like wave the hey flag when the team wins. Yet they're a pretty small group though. I mean, I wish they were bigger. I would give them a 6 out of 10. They do what they can, but yeah, I think the Royals need to expand that group a little more.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I think there's good merit behind that, but I'm curious to see what they might do if they do move downtown. Maybe that's where that gets a little bit bigger potentially.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No. Yeah. So as far as new ballpark goes, what do you think they'll ultimately do?
That's where it gets kind of tough. I mean, I could easily see them staying where they are and just continuing to revamp that. But who knows? I think it seems like most places are headed towards a downtown area. So it wouldn't surprise me if that's where they do end up going.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, the Royals have insisted that they move out of Kauffman Stadium, even though it's a pretty popular place, because John Sherman, who's the owner of the Royals, he says that there's like some maintenance issues that the Royals can't fix, or they can fix it, but it'd be really expensive to do so. They did an entire study on the places and its overall condition, and they found out apparently that it costs even more to renovate the K than to build a new ballpark. And so, yeah. And so about a year ago at this time, there was a vote to extend a tax that helped to keep the Chiefs Arrowhead Stadium and the Royals Kauffman Stadium up to date, but Jackson County voters voted that down. And so that would have helped fund a new ballpark for the Royals and renovations to Arrowhead for the Chiefs. And so, yeah, the Royals are going back to the drawing board. So are the Chiefs. We'll see what the Chiefs do. But the Royals, yeah, they've got a lot of options. They could stay in Missouri. They can go downtown. They could go to Clay County. They can go across the border into Kansas.
Yeah, I mean, everybody thinks Kansas City's in Kansas anyway whenever they do the big broadcast. So, I mean, that's always a possibility.
Yep. Well, that covers just about everything. Thank you so much for tuning in to the very first episode of the Tom Takes podcast. Thank you so much, Andrew, for joining me. I had a lot of fun in this conversation. Did you?
Oh, yeah. It was a ton of fun being able to talk Kauffman. I mean, Kansas City's home for me, so always willing to talk about home.
All right. Thank you so much, everyone. We'll see you in the next video.